Hi everyone, Nick Shaheen here looking at Chipotle. This is a hotly contested stock, emotional stock. People love it, people hate it. People love the food, people hate the food or the concept. To me, yeah, I hate the fact that a restaurant gets this valuation, but I do understand it when they turn in comps like they did. So before, if we go back in time, if we go back on a monthly chart to show this run up, when it was doing this, they were turning comps like you wouldn't believe. And then they had their food problem. And that just crippled the comps. What are the comps? Is sales this year versus last year of stores that are open more than a year. They don't include the new store openings because those have a honeymoon period. They spike for 3 months. Rough estimate, depends on the location. Sometimes it's 30 days, a huge spike, and then fall off a cliff. And other times it's just a nice 3 months, and then they fade a little bit. And so they don't include those in the comps. So it's a legit comparison of business of this year versus last year. So once they lost their food, when they had the food problem, they couldn't grow comps. And comps started going down the toilet. So every year was worse and worse and worse, and they couldn't catch a falling knife. And then now it's back. The comps are back. So is it a time to go long? Is it a time to go short? Is it fair to pay that much for a restaurant? So here's a restaurant company that is valued more than Amazon. 72 PE. And let's see, price to sales. Price to sales is not that crazy. It's 4.5 times sales. Amazon's a little cheaper than that. Facebook is like 9. Apple is that. So this is the same price to sales as Apple. I'm not saying it's as cheap as Apple. I'm just saying, because why does Wall Street give high valuations to stocks? It's because of their top line. They're growing, right? They're growing. That's the thing. They have growth. Well, that's the sales. So if they're priced to sales reasonably, then who cares what the profitability is? So PE doesn't matter as much because this is a growth stock. We're not talking about, a stagnant company that needs to show profit versus, it's assigned a certain valuation on Wall Street. They're paying X per stock, per share, because of its profits, not of its expectations of future growth, right? Mostly. So this is how I would evaluate this guy. It's a, for now, growth company. Comps. That's the story. Okay, so having said that, valuations aside, fundamentals aside, assuming stock markets are going higher, what's going on with the stock? So right here, we knew that it was tight. I drew 2 scenarios, either a breakout and a breakdown. I have a friend of mine, a couple of them, who are short Chipotle. So I did this specifically for them. I said, careful, if they close above that line, they're going to new highs. Even though it doesn't make sense, they're going there. If not, they're going to fall back a little bit. Where they're going to fall, I drew locations where they would test prior support. And they did, and they over-delivered on the fall. But it all makes sense. So let's mark it up a little bit to show you what I mean by it all makes sense. I didn't see it coming. I knew something was happening, and I knew the 2 outcomes. So here is, because they were short, I was more worried about the upside. Here is a very clear pivot point, and look what happened. This is not a coincidence. This is a clear top for a long time. They fell apart a couple of times, few times, before they finally skirted it, tested it. Prior resistance becomes forward support. Isn't that what they say? There is no better picture than this for that, although unconventional how it did this here with no event. Maybe it was a market-wide rally or whatever. But picture perfect. Bing. Skirt it, go above it, come back and test it, right? That's the good news. So now they've established that it's support. Check. As long as it holds. So now if it doesn't hold, let's say it does this, now it becomes a neckline. That looks like a head and shoulders, kind of funky though, right? Tiny shoulder, big head. And the danger is this much eyeballing. So if this happens, then the opposite of this should happen, where they go below the neckline, they go back, and now suddenly prior support becomes forward resistance. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that's what the risk is for the bulls. And if you think about it, this would be like an ABC drop, and it would almost match this guy. So why do I put it here? Look at this. First of all, this was a prior target of mine. So instinctively, I went to the same spot without really making a point. Second of all, there's something that's going on here. I have to zoom out to see what the heck this is, this white line. But this is also a ledge, kind of like this one, only smaller. Huge gap up from here. So this is a vulnerability. Say that pretty quickly. So this is the bad news, or the must do for bulls. They must hold this line, or they open the door to all this junk. It's not they're not going to go down straight, but they open the door for it. So what's the upside potential from here? So if I'm long, I can stay long as I know where my stop out is. So on the way up, this is a place where it could stall. This was prior support that was lost. So the question mark, is it going to be forward resistance or not? And if it is, will they be able to take it out on the second try? So that's the question. So there's a good test for Chipotle coming. So is it a good time to start going long Chipotle? For me, no. I want to see them. Onus is on the bulls to take it out because the reins are in the seller's hand. This is a good dip, a nice bounce, but the sellers are still in control until they overcome important levels. This is just on a daily chart. I haven't gone anywhere from that. So there is more information on a smaller time frame. This is an hour chart, and this is where the ledge looks more pronounced. The same ledge area I'm talking about here. So you can see it, clear ledge. So once they come back to it, are people stuck here and they're going to come out of it? I don't know. There is a gap up here. So it is the fact that they fell out of the value area of this period of time. What does that mean? It's the cluster of volume where most of the action happened. It tends to be resistance on the way back into it. So if you fall out of the value area, it's hard to get back into it. It should be hard in theory. So back to the daily chart. What if I go to a weekly chart? Okay, so I told you what was that white line right there? A huge ledge from 2015. Look at that. They held the line. They came back to it and fell apart completely and never came back to it. Finally did, busted through it. It's not going to be butter on the way down. Nevertheless, it's there. It's an important line. So I don't have any tradable information here other than perspective. And check this out. This is where we are kind of right now. So we're battling this zone right here. So it is a pivotal zone, and they're usually not easy. So let's go to a 2-hour chart to see if we can get any smarter. 4-hour chart. It's all the same. The reins are in the seller's hand until they can prove that they can break through some levels. Which level? Okay, let me give you a number for me that sticks out. 782. Why? 783. So 782 to 784. This cluster right here, this cluster right here, and this level right here. So if I were to put a line, I'd probably put it here and say, hey, what's going to happen here? So if I wanted a trigger to buy, I'll probably put a, you know what? I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to put an alert. Set an alert. Hey, look at Chipotle, you might be doing something. This is what's going to happen. I had tons of alerts this week. Like, I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't chase any of them. Did I? No, I shorted 1 or 2 of them just because of what I saw. Anyway, so this is Chipotle, the look at Chipotle from start to finish. I started with the fundamentals, but I do nothing without the technicals of it. Robocalls, man. Okay, so idea for an app. Can anybody give me an app that where if I get a robocall, I can just push a button and zap it, send like a virus to it or something? You know, the cable companies used to do that eons ago, where if you had an illegal cable box, they can send something to mess it up for you. All right, so this is the look at Chipotle, but the concept applies to any stock or any ticker, I should say. There's no going around the fundamentals to start, but there's absolute tons of information inside the chart that would help somebody trade their fundamentals with absolute certainty. Well, not absolute, with much greater certainty than before. All right, next signing out.